Yes, it was very, very therapeutic. I have to say that. That's a good word. And you're absolutely right. It was. And just to read a book, somebody else's book, whether it's spiritual or whatever it is, because I love to read, that relaxes me.
Welcome to the Delos Diaries, where we explore the untamed frontier of writing and creativity. Join your host, Paul Delos Santos, a writer and self-published author, as he navigates the ever-evolving world of storytelling.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the latest episodes of the Delos Diaries. I'm Paul Delos Santos, and I'm here today with Barbara Wheeler, author of God's Brew. How are you doing today, Barbara?
I'm doing good. And how about yourself?
I'm doing pretty well. I just got back from a recent trip, and it was a good trip that I needed. And overall, it was just one of those things where I was able to get a little vacation in before the real hustle begins. So,
Okay, that sounds good.
yeah, no, it sounds good.
Mhm.
Anyway, welcome to the show. And just wanted to kind of ask you the lead off question I ask all my guests is what got you into writing?
Um, Actually, I was just reading a lot of books and just word. I love books and I love words. So it didn't happen to me to years down the road. And I started doing a lot of research and I said, you know what? I want to write a book. And I started doing my research and just start writing. I mean, I didn't have no particular title. I just started writing about basically about my life and what I was doing. And then later on, I came up with the book, um, and it was called God's Brew. And actually, let me take that back. It was Coffee with God because every morning I get up, I have a cup of coffee, and I talk to God sitting in my kitchen. And so something say that's the title of your book. And that's how I got my title. Again, researching, um, getting involved with spiritual people, just observing, and then from that point, I felt something was missing in my life, and it was things that I forgotten when I was raised up by my parents, and so on research again, and just remembering the joy, the hope, being good. It was just a different. It was things that I forgot. And when I
Mhm.
started doing my research, I ran across a lot of stuff. I started jotting it down and I just went from there. Then I was just on my journey to do that. So I was very fortunate to when I lived in Vegas, which I lived there 27 years.
Mhm.
Augusta is my hometown. And so I went to the library just looking, wanted to take a free class. And I ran into, well, I signed up for the free class. It was me and two other people. And her name was, at the time, I didn't know she was the publisher. She owned her own company. So she was offering these free classes. So I went and took the class, and it was three people. But when it all ended up, I was the only one standing. So me and her, we talked, back and forth. And I don't want to say the name of this book, but this other book, the very first book that I did, I finished it. I did everything. Then I called Miss Joanne Wilkins, and I asked her, "Can I submit the book?" And she said yes. And so when she told me that, when I waited a few days, and then I called her and I asked her how did it go, and she said, "Barbara, I'm sorry, the committee didn't feel that it was time to publish the book." She said, "I want you to go back. I don't want you to get discouraged. I want you to go back and I want you to do your research." She said, "Because you got the potential, but you wasn't clear." Okay, so I did all my research. It took me 11 years with this next book. This is when the first one's called not God's View, I'm sorry, but Coffee with God. 11 years to write that book. I did some deep researches. I took free classes. I kept reading, researching, just doing the whole 9 yards. In between
Mhm.
that time, I really got discouraged and I took a year off. I came back after a year. I put it all together, and in between that time, I came back here to Augusta, to my hometown, doing the same research again, looking for, going to the library here, looking for free classes. Sit with a author who I will not name because I don't have her permission. I didn't realize I was in her company. She had published a number of books, offering free classes. By that time, the book was together. But what she did was, and it was during COVID 2021. And at that time, we was talking, chit chatting over the computer because we couldn't go to the library. Everything was shut down. So anyway, um, that's when I was working on Coffee with God. And so what she did, she took the book and she cleaned it up for me. She cleaned it up. She sent it back to me. Um, and then from there, I said, you know what? She wanted me to self-publish, but when I looked into self-publishing, I said, no, that's too much work. So I called Miss Wilkinson again and I asked her, would she mind looking at this book? And she was like, yeah, Barbara, just send me a couple of pages. I sent her a couple of pages. And I was like, oh, she haven't called me. I was so nervous or whatever. So I called her and she said, Barbara, I sent you an email. We accept the book. I didn't know what to do because at that time, I'm still working for United Way. I got my contract and then I was hired at the United Way. So all this hit me at one time. I had to sit down. I had to process all of this at one time. So she sent me the contract and I signed the contract and we went from there. And um, she put me with a proofreader, which her name is Summer. And I said, oh, this she finna chop this book all up. And it was to my amazing thing that now I never took a class in writing, but I love to write. But I
Mhm.
read a lot. So the only thing that she really had to do, she some sentences she had to suggest how to, to phrase it. And it was just a lot of is and are and was and were, those kind of little things, because I really thought she was gonna just chop it up, which she did
Mhm.
chop it up, but it was just a little thing. I was looking for something gigantic, like you got to rewrite the whole chapter. Okay, so but it wasn't like that. But and 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 after that it was just from that we went to I had to do a photo, so I had to get a book cover. So I
Mhm.
went to my supervisor, um, angela Angela Collins. I don't know if you've seen my book cover, or well,
Mhm.
you did because you went to my website. That was my vision, and she took what I said and turned it into that, which was exactly what I wanted. So, and Miss Wilkinson, they approved it and everything, and I just been going since then, trying to promote it.
Mhm.
On her end, they do their promotion, and I just been talking about my book, asking people to buy my book, and I mean, it's been an exciting journey.
Mhm.
I mean, it's a plus. I say, well, if I don't get the millions or whatever, it's just the fact that I accomplished writing a book, and I really enjoyed it. And I'm on my second book, which is going in the 13th year, because as I was researching that, I was researching my second book, which I got another one on the back burner I got to look back at. That's the one
Mhm.
she didn't accept. So it was a lot. It was a lot. And I enjoyed the journey, still enjoy the journey. So
You
yeah.
mentioned that there's
Mhm.
11 years between for God's Brew. Like, over those 11 years, how long was the process in terms of, like, the ideas, and how do you organize it in the sense that you were basically writing for nearly a decade and basically just trying to keep it organized? How did you keep it organized?
I kept it organized. I did draft after draft. I saved every draft I ever done. I saved it on a flash drive. Now I went from a flash drive to an external hard drive, which give me more space. But over the years, again, reading, researching, curious about a lot of things. So while I was living in Vegas, I did sit with spiritual people to get their feedback on a lot of stuff, and that inspired me to continue to write. Um, I mean, like I said, I got every draft that I ever did on it, so I could look back and then compare what I did in the draft, comparing what I was presently doing at the time, just to look at to see where, like, okay, I put this here and then I did this, so maybe I need to switch it up a little bit.
Mhm.
But like I said, that was a lot of work. But again, I attended spiritual classes, um, just to get a feel for what I was writing and me personally. So while I was doing that, I was really researching me as well. And it made me look at my life different, at the things that I was doing, how I was processing things. Because in my book, I talk about filtering, and filtering is, to me, when I looked at it, the filtering process is the same way we filter things through our brains. You know what I'm saying? You go from the
Mhm.
unconscious to the subconscious, and then you bring it to the conscious, but that takes some time. Everybody don't wake up at the same time. Everybody don't filter at the same time. So that's what I did on that part. So
It's funny that you mentioned that, 'cause most of the authors I've interviewed thus far are fiction, but,
mhm.
you're looking at your perspective, which is semi-autobiographical in some. But how easy is it or difficult is it to write about yourself? I mean, some people can. Was it easy for you to write about yourself, or was it a little awkward at first?
It was easy because I didn't have and this came with the process over time. Going from there to get to where I was so I can talk about myself, it was very easy because you have to. How else can you relate it to other people? So you have to compare yourself to life and the things that you went through. So yes, it was easy for me, but only because I did the research, and it made me think. You know what? I was like that. I said that. So it make you mindful of the things that you're doing and saying to other people, because we are just a mirror for each other. That's the way I see it. So yes, it was easier for me because, like I said, doing the research, it really brought home a lot of stuff to me. So
Mhm.
yeah.
You mentioned initially it was coffee with God, and then it became as God's brew. Just that concept of spirituality is an interesting one to me because I don't read spirituality books truthfully, but
Mhm.
what is the appeal of these books, and why do you think so many people gravitate toward them in a sense that they're gonna buy it? What do you think they're looking for?
I'm not going. I said I was going to think about me, but I got to. If you're searching, if you, like I was, you felt something missing in your life,
Hmm.
you want to find out what is that I'm missing. What did I miss along the way that I need to go back and look to see if I'm on the right track to that. So with me, I found a lot of stuff that I miss, that I've forgotten. Let me put it like that, because I forgot. We forget. We tend to get to love each other, show kindness, be peace, patient, joy, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness. All these things played a part. That those are things that I forgot that I was raised up on. And I guess as you get to be an adult, you do forget some things. So on this journey, taking these classes made me realize that I missed all these things in my life. I wasn't doing this. I only do it if I'm a selfish person and wanted something for me. But you can't be selfish on this journey for spirituality. Even though it teaches you to do self-care, that's fine. But you also got to give back. You gotta love. And I had a closed heart. I would admit that I had a closed heart. And on this journey, I learned to open it. I learned to see the worst in everything. And well, the worst I seen joy, I found love in it because there's a reason why things happen to us. It don't
Mhm.
just happen to us. It happened for us. And if we don't pick up on that, then we lose the whole thing. I mean, that's just my opinion. But everybody,
Mhm.
like I say, we everybody walk a different journey.
Mhm. Is
So
that kind of like the main message of God's brew, in the sense that you're gonna be on this journey of self-reflection a little bit?
say that again. I'm sorry.
Is that kinda like the message of God's brew? Isn't it that it's a journey of self-reflection and, kind of being kinda just reflecting on what has happened and learning how to either forgive yourself, open your heart up, or, stuff like that?
Yes, it is. It is. And that was my biggest thing. I could never forgive myself for things that I thought was my fault. Even if it wasn't my fault, you got to find some sort of forgiveness for yourself first. And if you find that that person can't forgive you, then you done your job. That's they have to deal with that. Um it the forgiveness open up the heart, it brings love, it brings the joy, it brings all these things I talk about in my book. But don't forget, now we are human, so we can fall to the wayside on some of these things, because I have done that along this journey. I'm human. But
Mhm,
I start thinking about what I wrote in the book, what I learned in classes, even when I learned from people in everyday talking. It triggers something in me, and it takes me back to, okay, well, you're not showing love, you're not showing the forgiveness, and you have to realize people are people. You can't expect them to be like you.
mhm. Do you feel that when you were writing the book, it was kind of, for lack of a better word, for lack of better terms, uh, therapeutic, in the sense that you were able to reflect while writing the book, that you can express these thoughts and feelings to others and kind of help them on their journey a little bit as you were going through the journey of writing the book?
Yes, it was very, very therapeutic. I have to say that. That's a good word. And you're absolutely right. It was. And just to read a book, somebody else's book, whether it's spiritual or whatever it is, because I love to read, that relaxes me. And it's so funny, even though I wrote this book, I haven't read it from page to page yet. I haven't done that yet.
Mhm,
I haven't done that. But yes, it is very therapeutic for me, while I was writing it. Because, like I say, it woke up a lot of stuff in me. It made me realize things, that as a person, that I was not doing, or I wasn't showing, or not forgiving myself, not loving something or someone, because I'm basing it on who they are, and it's just my opinion. It's not right, because we don't know what they're going through. So we have to look at that all the whole process. We have to look at the whole process. So, like I say, with me, yes, it really brought a lot of things home to me. And I just it was it was kind of scary looking at it, but it was the truth.
mhm.
So you either face it or you don't, and I face mine. The fear.
how do you feel like based on the feedback you've received from readers of the book, how have they felt impacted by your story?
Um, I only got a few free feedbacks, and the ones that I did get, they enjoyed the book, and they go, "Aha,
Hmm.
you are right. We have lost something. I have lost something." And being harsh because the world is this place we live in, or the people that surround us are harsh because times has changed. Nobody reach back and give them a helping hand. We don't do that because we're always thinking that, oh, you're trying to get over that kind of thing. But
Hmm.
the little feedback that I got back from them was very positive, and it made them think about a lot of things as well. So even the name of it is
Hmm.
captive to them, and they was like, "Gosh, Brew, what do you mean by that?" You need to read it, and then you would understand it. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you. I want you to read it, and you give me your opinion when you finish reading it.
Hmm. I mean, it feels like this book itself is very much spirituality, also self help, and partly
Mhm.
autobiographical, like for some people. And I think you mentioned it was therapeutic for you. I think, do you feel that even for the ones who don't end up publishing, that writing can be a very therapeutic activity for just releasing thoughts and feelings?
Yes, I do. I really do truly believe that. And I'm hoping that I get more readers, because I think my books speak to everybody. I think we have forgotten those things that I put in the book: the joy, the love, the forgiveness, the gentleness, the faithfulness. I think for me, this is the right time for my book because a lot of us have lost faith and they don't know where to turn, where to go, or what to do. But I think if you read my book, and I'm sharing my experiences with you, I really think it would really help you to understand things.
What makes this time really relevant for your book? Why do you think that?
I think it's because people that I see now, they are selfish, and don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong to be selfish, but you don't care about. I don't think they care enough to help another person. I don't care what they done. If they out there asking for $1, just give them $1. Just give them $1. I don't care if you see them every day. And I had to practice that, and I still practice that because we don't, like I said, we don't know what shoes they're walking in because we're walking in our own. So I just feel that we're not showing enough love. The way I was raised, a whole community come together when one person need help. Okay, this
Mhm.
community don't do that. The people in the world don't do that unless they're getting something out of it. So why you got to get something out of it? Because you got to give somebody something. So they either looking for $1 or they want what they gave back. What they gave
Mhm.
the other person. And I see that a lot. And like I say, I'm a giving person. I don't mind helping anybody if I have it. Um, I love to work in the community. That's the kind of work I do with United Way, and we help a lot of people. And I'm in my element with them. I'm in my element. So, and that's what I did at the housing authority in Las Vegas. We was always on the forefront. I'm in the trenches, and I love being in the trenches because you see everything. You see the need. And I think we should come together, and which some agency does, and feel that need. And I do believe in that. So yes, I am. I mean, again, we don't know what people went through to get where they're at. Even if they
Mhm.
scamming you, it catches up anyway. It catches up with you. But long as you know it, you gave it from your heart. You can't worry about what they gonna do with it, or what if they playing a scam or whatever. If you feel in your heart that you need to give that person 50 cent or a dollar, just give it and go on. Don't make
Mhm.
such a big deal out of it. So
You mentioned that you got into writing later, and later in life.
mm,
What advice do you have for aspiring authors in terms of who want to get into writing, who just don't know where to start?
I would say the first thing to do is, like I did, do your research. Read.
Mhm,
I read from love novels to mysteries to even picking up a magazine. If it had anything in there inspirational, you can read poems. But I think the the source is, are you ready to do that? Because it is a lot of work. That's why I say do your research, um, and just whatever your title is going to be or whatever you feel that you want to write. And like me, I didn't know what I wanted to write. It just came, but I had been
mhm,
reading for years, and I know I love words. I love to write. I love to do all of that. I had no idea I would write a book, none whatsoever. But for an aspiring writer, I would say read. Read. Don't even worry about the title. Just read because it will come to you. And just take a look around at life, you know, and do like I did. Go to some classes and learn, or go to book reading,
mhm,
and listen to that person talk about their book. Like me and you, like I'm sharing my information with you as far as writing. I mean, do that. And they have a lot of that going on right now at Barnes and Noble. So if you go there on the weekend, they have a schedule. But if you're interested in writing, get ready because you got to work for it. It's not an
mhm,
easy thing because I had to do 50,000 words, and I only gave her 10,000. So I was on it day and night,
mhm.
and still was researching. So
You mentioned it was the first book was rejected. I mean, how did you take that and go in stride, so to speak, to kind of stay motivated? I mean, because it's very discouraging for a lot of people to hear the words, "We're not going to go with your story," regardless if it's a short story or a novel or being published at all. So, how did you kind of keep confident that you had the writing ability to do it?
I guess with Miss Wilkins' encouraging words, but I was still hurt. It still discouraged me. So I took a year off. I
Mhm,
didn't do anything for a year. I was like, I don't care. I don't want it. It's to all this work I put into it. You know how we complain as humans and all of
mhm,
this. And I took a year off. But again, in between that year, I was still didn't know it, was still researching because I was still doing the spiritual classes, still reading, still researching. But I always said, I'm not going to write that book. But look what I did. I wrote it anyway.
mhm,
So I would suggest if your book is rejected the first time, take a minute, step back, breathe, take as much time as you want. It's like healing. It's like healing.
mhm,
Take your time and step back, and then give yourself room enough to see, okay, what did I do wrong? What did I write wrong? That's going to cause for research again. Told you it took 11 years to do this book.
mhm.
This was not overnight, and you got to be serious about it. Do you really want this? So that's all depend on the person and how bad they want it. And if they
Mhm.
want it, they'll do the research. But again, I'm gonna go back to this again. If that happened, take a break. It's okay to take a break. It's okay.
Yep, I agree.
It's okay.
It's just yeah, it feels like there's a lot of people out there who love writing, but are afraid of rejection. I think that's the biggest thing
Yeah, the
that I think they're a
rejection.
bit
Yeah.
the rejection is like anytime you're rejected for anything, it never feels good. But when it comes to something as personal as writing, it feels like there's a lot of emotions tied to it that are more
Mm,
connected. It just feels like you're being let down, like you said, more indicative of your skill than it is other aspects when people reject you. So
yes.
yeah, no, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly that it's just you just got to get through it and develop thick skin. Is that something that you kind of always had, and you took that break, you just refreshed and recharged
Hmm.
a little bit,
I
and you
did.
got back to it, and you got back to it. And I
I,
think that's the lesson learned here.
and that's what kept, you know what? If you got a publisher like Miss Wilkins who say, well, not this time, but don't give up, you know, go back at it. You know, she was positive. She was positive. So she had to see something. It was
Hmm.
potential there, but I just had to go back and tweet it. I needed more research. I needed to sit with someone. And when I, like I said, when I left here and came back to Augusta, look what happened. I sit with a well known author
Hmm.
and didn't even know it. And all she did was just clean it up, put it in perspective for me. And when I gave it back to Miss Wilkins again, look, it took right off. They loved it. They loved the title. I mean, she said I only want like 2 or 3 pages. And when they read it, they wanted it. So, and I was happy for that. So that came from hard work.
Hmm.
That came from hard work. But if you want it, you got to work at it.
Hmm. Did you when how did it feel to feed a book in live and in person? Because a lot of people, when they publish a book, that's like the end game. But for some, like just having that finished product in their hand, how did that feel initially when you finally had that book finished, published, and in your hand, ready to go?
It's no words to describe it. I was so happy because, like I said, during that course of time, that happened. Then I got the promotion at work, and it was just something I had to sit down because I had to process it. It was a lot.
Hmm.
I wasn't looking for that at work because I'm working on this, and the day that all this happened was the day that the promotion came, and so it was a lot. My head was spinning, and it took me a minute to process it.
Hmm.
And so I say, you know what? It's time to start to finish up the second book, which I'm still researching.
Hmm.
I'm still researching. I think it's going on probably 12 or 13 years. So it's in the oven, but it's not ready.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that I mean, everyone's writing process is different. I think that's something I've discovered. Some people can crank out novels every 3 to 4 months. Others
Yeah.
can take years. And I'm discovering that there's a wide range of authors who take their time in their writing process. So,
Hmm.
I mean, some people need to do research like you, who, especially when you're writing in the spirituality space. I
Yes.
feel research is so important, and knowing who your audience is more specifically than say
Hmm.
a generic fantasy reader.
Well, I'm not going to say the title of this book, but it is very difficult
Mm-hmm.
because what I really need to sit with spiritual people, but I need to sit with, I call them like the head honcho, and that's very hard.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my block right now. Trying to sit with uh, people who's generational, things passed down to them. So, and in that world, they don't like to really talk about it. I don't want your secrets. I just want to talk to you to get an idea of how I would put things in my book. But
Mm-hmm.
that's been my roadblock. So I'm really thinking on how I'm going to do that one. But I
Mm-hmm.
will. I will.
Mm-hmm. Just spirituality just goes in so many different lanes. It feels like you have different faiths and religions and everything else, and spirituality comes in different types. So how does it that you kind of appeal to a do you feel that you appeal to a broad audience, or do you feel you're very specific with a monotheistic kind of view?
No, I feel it's a broad audience
Mm-hmm.
because I talk about a little everything. Um, I again I talk about a lot of things because I talk about my experience going through it. Uh, but I don't just pinpoint one specific spirituality because, like you said, it's so many out there. So I have to be careful with my words. That's very, very important.
Mhm.
So in the research, I have to make sure I'm just not targeting one person and a group and targeting a person or just the whole religion thing as
Mhm.
as a whole up under the umbrella. So I kind of stay neutral and I try to keep the light on me.
Mhm.
I try to share what I went through. I don't compare nothing. I don't do that because every religion is different. So,
Mhm.
and I respect that. And if you read my book, it'll tell you that. But I just talk about in general, and it's still with me and how I seen it through my eyes. And then
Mhm.
some pieces of the research is in there, but you got to read to know to even write and
Mhm.
to keep it on a neutral basis. You really do because I
Mhm.
don't want to offend nobody. Nobody.
Yep.
So that was the way, I did that. And I wrote, you can say I kind of wrote around it, but I wrote
Mhm.
about it.
It's funny that you mentioned that you are trying to appeal to a mass audience, and many writers feel like they have to niche down and kind of focus on a very specific targeted reader. For
Mhm.
you, you went wider, and overall, that seems like a like you. So was it? You kept the spotlight on yourself naturally, but
Mhm.
like, was keeping multiple types of people in mind difficult initially? Like trying to like make sure you're not necessarily offending them, but
Yeah.
keeping their beliefs in mind. Was that difficult initially?
Somewhat, somewhat. But when I was writing, I was really thinking about that broader
Mhm.
crowd of people. And I'm a little in there. It's not all about me.
Yep.
It's not all about me, but I put me in there. I use me as an example for something, but then I get back to writing in general about everything because I this is what I feel. And I think I put this in my book. I feel that I don't care what you practice, what I practice, Christian, um, whatever. I think we all headed in the same direction. We just have a different path. And we call it
Mhm.
something different. But when I did my research, it was like, it's not different in my eyes. It's just done a different way. It is said a different way. You walk this path and I'm walking that path. But to me, it's all of it is the same.
Mhm.
So I try to keep it general so it'll touch all my people that are reading it, my audience. And I'm
Mhm.
hoping that with that they will see that okay, she just not pinpointing one thing. She's not just singling us out. She's not singling this person out. She's not doing this. And it's just in general a perspective of mine that I see when I was taking classes or when I had the
Mhm.
opportunity to sit with a spiritual person. I learned a lot.
Mhm. When it comes to writing nonfiction, do you feel you have to be curious about writing, curious about the subject you're writing about? Because
You
it feels like
should be.
mhm. Mhm.
You should
Do you
be.
could this be applied to fiction as well? You had to be curious about the world you're building.
That's true too. And
Okay.
I'm very curious. I I don't go too far in the unknown, but
Mhm.
some things I would want to know if writing for me. I don't get too nosy because in spirituality, you can only go so far anyway.
Mhm.
All your research is if you can't just really sit with different people. And like I said, I had the opportunity to do that, but it's still research. You still want you get the opinion here, you get the opinion there, you get the opinion there. Then I go and do my research, and I'm searching, 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 and you have to know how to tie all that together to make it fit. But it's still reaching those people you sit and talk to, because you know what? Maybe what I wrote they never thought about. But I took their words, I took her words, his words, or whatever, and did my research, and I tried to tie all that together.
Well, we got about a minute left. Just
Okay.
overall, where can fans find you and kind of get your information about your book?
What you can find me on Amazon. I'm at Amazon. You can purchase my book there. I wish we had the camera because I had the book right here. But
I'll have my editor put a copy of the book note.
okay. All right. Thank you. And I am, my website is Barbara's coffeecups.com. You can reach me there. I'm in the process, and like I told you in the email, that I'm revamping a lot of things now.
Hmm.
So I'm trying to get that website up and going. I'm doing some and trying to work on the book too. But I just getting the website back up, and I'm going to be doing a blogging page, which you already seen that, but I haven't gotten into it yet. I got someone that's going to work with me on that. We're going to get all that's going to change what you see now. All that's going
Hmm.
to change. I'm going to revamp and do something else. And hopefully, this is my very first podcast. Hopefully, I'll be doing many more with you as the second book come out.
Hmm.
But yes, they can reach me there. Hmm.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Barbara, for coming on the show today, and I really
Thank
appreciate the conversation
you.
we had because it was really it's like it's always interesting to hear what different authors write about because I think that's the appeal of like this. I hope the appeal of the podcast is they hear different writing perspectives. I think that was a big thing for me when I started this. So,
Mhm.
yeah, no, thank you again for having me on, for
Yeah,
coming on, and glad you bring you back anytime.
yeah, and thank you for inviting me. I really enjoyed it. I wasn't as nervous as I thought I would be.
I hope we did a good job. So I'm gonna stop through. Thank you again, and we'll catch you later.
Okay, bye bye.